John.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing, Sukie?
I'm well. How about you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for
that's great.
taking the time. Now, I'm recording this call, so I'm gonna. So first of all, I just want to check in. How's everything going with you? Since we last talked.
Oh, everything's going fine, and I reached out to another friend who I'm moving upstairs because contractors are doing work in the kitchen and it's noisy. But I reached out to another friend who went to church with Hillary, and she might have some additional pictures to benefit from.
Was she in school with you guys?
Yeah, she was at various times.
Okay.
She ended up going to a private school.
Okay.
At some point.
Well, that would be great. It doesn't have to be, I've talked to, like I said, over the phone with Howard, and it was just, his brief experience, so it doesn't have to be anything major, so.
Okay. Howie Primer?
Oh, yeah, Howie. I wouldn't call him.
Yeah. Do you know I think he does go by Howard now as an adult.
Right, yeah.
But do you know that his wife just died?
No, I did not. I haven't talked to him. It was well over a year ago.
Oh. Well, I guess she was suffering from Alzheimer's.
Oh, my goodness. She's so young.
A message just went around yesterday saying that she had died, so...
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. But I noticed in the message that all the references to those who were so close with him were about Howard.
Right.
So I think your nomenclature's correct.
Right, probably.
Yeah.
So I'll just want to get started. Did you see the questions that I sent over to you?
I did see the questions, and I just wanted to make one correction, actually.
Okay.
Near the end, you talk about the Park Ridge Presbyterian Church, and it was Methodist.
Right. Oh, my goodness. Yeah. I don't know why that's on there. Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you, because I'm recording this and no one doesn't know, so what's your name?
My name is Sukie, Askew Stanley.
Okay, and what did you go by as a child?
As a child, Sukie Askew.
Okay, great. And what was your address growing up?
Growing up was 325 Grand Boulevard in Park Ridge.
Wow, okay, great. Now, what schools, tell me about you yourself, like what was your first school that you went to?
Eugene Field Elementary School.
Okay.
Well, actually I went to school in Chicago, but since this is Park Ridge Museum, I'll limit myself to that. So, in first grade. Okay. I transferred from my Chicago school to here.
So tell me, what year did you come in to move? Did you guys move into Park Ridge? I think it was in the 1950s.
Yeah, it was 1954.
And how old were you?
I was 6.
6 years. Okay, so you're pretty early. So just set the tone. What was like your early memories of Park Ridge back then?
Wow. Park Ridge it was much the same for all of my growing up years there. There was not big change, really, that I was aware of anyway. It had houses that had big yards and super tall trees that were, later sacrificed to Dutch elm disease, but big trees, and it felt very safe and very much a community. The uptown area was within walking distance. My school felt like it was miles and miles away because I had to walk when I got once, my sister and I walked or rode our bikes once I was able to ride a bike and just ride our bikes.
Okay.
But it was less than a mile. It was, as my mother would say, 7/10 of a mile.
So tell me, like, you started off in first grade at Field School, and so tell me what was like the first grade that you were in with Hillary then.
First grade that I shared with Hillary, well, actually, Brownie Scouts were what really allowed our paths to cross. But we were in the same fourth grade class, and then sixth and eighth.
Okay.
But in second grade, we became brownies in the same.
Oh, so your earliest. Okay, so you were in second grade. So tell me, like, what do you remember? Like, what was she like? Well, what was it like hanging out with her in Brownies? Do you remember anything about that?
I don't remember so specifically. I just have general memories of those years that were so long ago.
Right.
And the recollections for me are very, I'm very confident that I'm remembering them correctly, but they're general in nature.
Yeah.
And that was that she was a person that rose to the top in terms of accomplishment. For instance, if in Brownies there were groups, it was always desirable to be in the same group with Hillary and with others. I mean, she wasn't the only person that was popular.
Right.
She then later, we would play. We had gym inside in the winter often because of the snow or the rain, and would play sports inside. And I mean, it was simple things like dodgeball. And she was clearly a good athlete. I mean, she was coordinated. I remember seeing her, but not necessarily the two of us alone, going to Hinckley Field to swim in the summers and ice skate in the winters. It wasn't probably until closer to sixth grade that I was, my memories get a little more specific, and I guess primarily because we were just maturing. What I remember specifically is that this was the age where boys and girls were getting together, to say they were going steady.
Right.
And we had dog tags in whatever year that was, in sixth grade. And that year, Hillary and Dennis Osgood traded dog tags, but we didn't know who she traded dog tags with. She just came to school with a knot in the chain, which meant it was somebody else's dog tag, not her own. And the knot in the chain was the clue that I have a boyfriend. And so some of us wanted to see whose dog tag she was wearing, and a great race ensued on the playground where we were all chasing her to see whose dog tag it was. And she was such a damn fast runner. She really was quick. And I'm sure I proved that long before she did. Somehow we got the word, though.
So, okay, but she did not want to tell you right away.
That's right. It was a high drama.
Oh, yes. This is sixth grade after all.
Yes, indeed.
So so if you could pull out of your picture, Let's see, which picture, like in the class picture, which one is something that you like? What's one of your favorite class pictures?
Well, I liked the one from 1957 in Miss Metzger's class, Mrs. Metzger. I think as I was looking at it,
Are you looking at it online or looking at the actual picture?
No, I'm looking at it in my hand.
Okay. And then bear with me because I got them all in a folder here.
All right.
And it was a 5th grade?
No, 4th grade.
4th grade. Okay. And what was the name of the teacher?
Mrs. Metzger.
Okay. And
with a Z,
yeah.
M-E-T-Z.
Does it say that on the...
It doesn't say that on the picture itself.
Okay.
It just says Field School, Room 223.
Okay.
1957.
And which does... no, that's 1959. Okay, I see it. Okay. So, yeah. So I see it. So room 223. Tell me about room 223.
Well, it's funny. I just told you the story about Hillary and Dennis trading dog tags.
Okay.
Great. And if you track up to the top row, he's the one with the cap tooth smiling right in the middle on the top row there. So anyway, so there was. It was like so many of those classes. It was just a good class, good kids. You know, the girl sitting right next to Hillary on the right became a very accomplished professional violinist, Kathy Tone.
Mm-hmm.
But look at Hillary's shoes. I mean, that was so emblematic of the time. Saddle shoes with rolled down bobby socks.
Okay, I see that.
So, you know, it's funny because in later years she was never a terribly vain. Well, she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
She just wasn't vain. I mean, she ended up having her sick glasses later, and so I was really impressed that she had those roll down bobby socks that I copied 2 years later.
Right.
So it was, you know, she was ahead of her time.
Definitely. Now, where are you? Which girl are you in?
I'm on the other side of Kathy Tong, so I'm in the middle with the tie.
With the tie, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, let me make a note.
And then Ricky Ricketts is next to the teacher.
Yeah, I can pick him out of any picture.
Yeah. What a cutie, huh?
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Uh-huh.
So tell me, like, what kinds of other things were like really a big deal for you guys in 223 or that time? I
think by that time we were starting to maybe sort ourselves a bit, and I started to become aware of whose answers were right most of the time,
mm-hmm.
and who seemed to know the answers really. And she and Dennis and Bob Field, who's in that middle row there, there were a handful of kids that were just impressive in terms of smarts, and I don't know if it was just that I began to notice that at about that age.
Right. And then, like, how do you Dennis Osgood? How do you spell
mm-hmm.
his name? Do you know? Do you have
Osgood?
Got it. Okay.
He ended up marrying Judy, and then they divorced. But Judy Osgood
that's
married.
Right.
Yeah.
Judy talked to us about that and how Hillary was helpful in that when we interviewed her. So she's
good.
Yes, seems a good friend. So tell me about like your what are your favorite memories of like in grade school with that Hillary that and just kind of think about like what was really important to you guys, what was exciting, what were all the things, and like like what comes to mind that I mean, how much did you like, who did you hang out with? Like, who were your main friends who you would run around with mostly?
I hung out with kind of a variety of people.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to think. I think that it wasn't until about 5th grade that I had a best friend, and she subsequently moved away, so she wasn't here.
Right.
But I would play with actually a lot of the people in this, the girls,
right,
not the boys, not mine.
Wow.
In this picture, and we were still a pretty inclusive group, and I think maybe Girl Scouts and Brownies really satisfied a lot of
right,
social needs at the time.
Right.
It wasn't until probably junior high that there were events where you would intentionally get together. I think as I'm talking, I'm realizing that it was a more passive situation in elementary school where the occasion put you together, like a birthday party.
You just ran around and had fun with whoever was there.
With whoever was there.
Right.
And it was probably just, I don't remember a lot of sleepovers.
Right, probably till later.
I remember going to her house, and I remember the thick drapes in the living room, which seemed impressive to me, almost like scary impressive. I do remember a story from 6th grade, actually. We were getting ready we were graduating from 6th grade, and we were going to have a promotion ceremony, graduation ceremony, and there was going to be a dance, which was a big flippin' deal.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was going to wear nylons, and I wasn't allowed. And neither was Hillary. And Hillary's dad was really strict.
Mm-hmm.
And as I've said before, my mom was too. And so there was some, in the end, I think Hillary was allowed to maybe take her socks off. But honestly, I almost ran away. It was so important to me that I fit in at, that age, 6th grade, that I remember we were wringing our hands a bit on what to do about not being able to wear nylons to that dance. And I bet it mattered less to her than it did me, but I don't know that for sure.
Right.
So, and then one of our classmates then got a petition together, and, it was, tense times in my household, but anyway, I wore my socks. Sure, it was hard, but I did it. So, by 6th grade, by middle school or junior high school, that's when we had the kidnap breakfast party, and that was one event.
Yeah, let me ask you a couple questions. So first, let me talk to you about your mom for a second.
Alrighty.
And so why don't you tell me about your mom? What was she like? Tell me first of all your mother's name. It's Aurelia
Askew.
She was a formidable woman, I can imagine. So tell me,
Formidable.
what was she like?
She was, well, her father was British, and I think and her mother, they were opera singers. I think there was a certain amount of formality and expectation that she grew up with and tried very hard for our family to adopt. But that was pretty tricky in our household. She was very intelligent and very much a leader, and was involved in the PTA, but much of her time, most of it, was focused on Girl Scouts. She led Hillary's and my Girl Scout troop, Troop 316, and my sister's Girl Scout troop, 156. So that was Hillary's big job in an era where Girl Scouts really was booming.
Right, so that was Girl Scout 316 troop.
316.
Tell me about Troop 316. What was it like to be a Girl Scout in Troop 316?
Well, the troop itself was huge. I'm sure my mom didn't expect to have over 30 or 35 girls,
Wow.
second graders, sign up to be brownies. But she also had mothers of other girls in the troop who were co-leaders. And so that was certainly helpful. But it was fun. It was just really fun. It was a mixture of learning customs and rules, the Girl Scout laws, but more importantly, I think it was just fun. We would play games, and we went, when we got a bit older, we went to I want to say the forest preserves. Are those still there?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Where they had the buildings that were training barracks, I believe, and we would have overnights, and those were just so fun. So fun. I mean, they were exciting, to be in the woods, and we would always be challenged to figure out ways to cook our food in these coffee cans that we would, dig a hole and put charcoal in the hole, and then put the food in the coffee can and bear it up, and then go a long hike, and then come back and the food is all cooked. Things like that were adventurous for us.
Right.
We learned a lot. We did all the badges that both Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts would do, and there were ceremonies to honor and recognize those accomplishments.
Right.
It was really a forming sort of an experience that I learned a lot from Girl Scouts, and as I say, it was what allowed us to be together as both in large groups and then in smaller as well. And
Right.
when we got into junior high, we took the train to Springfield.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and spent a few nights in Springfield.
Oh, wow.
All of the pictures I have of that trip, I could not find Hillary in those pictures.
Sure.
I think she was still at that point, but she must not have been able to make that trip.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm sure I would have had a picture of her.
Sure. So tell me about, let's go to, I'm going to pull up that Marcia. Tell us about being a Girl Scout and with your mom as a troop leader and getting ready for the parade to march.
Yeah, okay. Well, the parades were very exciting for us, and the precision marching was something we practiced. The color guard, the holding of the flag, was treated with just awesome respect. And you're the one that actually noticed the white gloves, Scott. I mean, I hadn't even noticed those, but that's very symbolic of the seriousness with which patriotism and marching with the flags and being service-minded and oriented group of girls meant. Makes me think there was always a responsibility of leaving a place cleaner than you found it. So when we were on those hikes, for instance, or camping, and we had stuff, we always were taught to just leave it looking better than how we found it.
Right.
So the parades were exciting. We knew where we were supposed to be we would all meet at the designated and line up, and it was always hot, and there were always lots and lots of people standing on the sides cheering as people went by. You know, it was a celebratory time, and there was music, and at the end there were popsicles.
Oh my goodness!
Most vividly.
And so was that time where it's double exposure? That picture, was that after a parade?
Yeah, that would have been. I think it would have been. I don't know if it was just before or just after. I think it would be tough to do it after the parade, but maybe not. You know, we were rules followers, and if my mom, whose name was Pixie, you know, all the leaders had nicknames.
Mm-hmm.
She was Pixie.
Right.
And I may have mentioned to you in later years, Hillary asked her to participate in a Girl Scout event and the naming of the street in front of her house.
Mm-hmm.
And she still called my mom Pixie. And whenever we saw Hillary, we would go to some of her events, and she would always be very happy to see my mom and very warm.
That's nice.
Reach out and Pixie. That was sweet. I love my mom.
So tell me about your mom, the idea of the kidnapping. So tell me what was the concept, and how did that start? How did that happen?
Well, the concept was to have a surprise where I and others would basically surprise our friends who were sleeping on Saturday morning, pick them up and bring them to my house for breakfast. So the way it was, a week in advance or two, I called the mothers, and I think it's I think it was I, because I remember thinking when the girls answered the phone, I thought they might think it was odd if they recognized my voice. So I think I remember sort of trying to disguise my voice a little bit. But anyway, I would speak with the mom and explain that we were going to have a party on Saturday morning, and that I would be picking up her daughter, and hopefully before she really woke up and got dressed on Saturday morning, and that we're going to kidnap her for a breakfast at my house, and that the daughter was not supposed to do anything other than brush her teeth. She was allowed to do that, but she couldn't brush her hair, and she couldn't change her clothes. So on that morning, and all the moms, of course, were very cooperative. So that morning, I went to the first girl's house and woke her up, and then she and I got in the car and drove to the next girl's house, and she and I both woke up the third girl, and it just kept building and building and building until there was a small crowd. By the time we got to the house, there was probably maybe about 5 of us. And I remember we really did wake her up. And she had her hair in curlers, and as many of them did, because by then we were
high school. And so we had a group of 10 or 11 girls that were horrified and embarrassed and delighted in being captured wearing their pajamas and bathrobes and slippers
And
with their hair looking stupid.
So how was Hillary's reaction to this? Do you remember?
Yeah, groggy. I actually can picture her. She was confused, as some of the others as well. She was confused and groggy, and it was, I don't want to say slow because she's never slow at anything, but, it was a surprise. It was unusual. Why are you all here? Sort of the felt response anyway.
So what grade was this in?
This would have been, I think, 8th grade.
Yeah. You guys kind of look like you were in 8th grade then.
Yeah.
And remind me, which girl are you in the picture? Are you the
I am on the
second?
far left.
On the second row?
Second row, yeah.
Right, that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
facing the camera. Yeah.
So tell me about high school. Tell me about you in high school first off. What was you went to Maine South, is that right?
Well, we all went to Maine East.
Or Maine East, I'm sorry, yes.
No problem. For the first 3 years. And it was an enormous school. There were, I'm sure you're getting more accurate quotes than I can give you, but I want to say there were over 4,000 kids in that high school. So it was actually larger than my first college. But, so as freshmen, I think we were all just trying to sort ourselves out. Oh, I think I have a flashback. I do remember when it was time for us to go, I think it was a junior high or high school? No, it would have been high school. We were social enough to be comparing. And so Lincoln Junior High School and Emerson Junior High School were the two schools. And as we were, the summer of entering freshman year at East, we were comparing who we were going to find, which of the Lincoln kids were the kids that they were proud of, and which of the Emerson kids were we proud of. And we sort of compared, it was almost a competition, like, well, they had Cheryl and Patsy, but we had Hillary, and probably we include Betsy in there too, because she was much loved, and so they were considered our best representatives, I would say. So anyway, high school was a little bit, I don't want to say overwhelming, because I mean, big and exciting and stimulating, and everybody was just doing their best to keep up with this new environment. And I remember thinking I wanted to try out for cheerleading, because I had been a cheerleader at Emerson, and that was a much higher caliber gig at Maine East. And I remember thinking, oh no, they're much better than I am. So I took a step back. There were class elections, and I don't recall. I imagine Hillary got one of those positions, but I don't know for sure. My other yearbooks are packed away somewhere.
Right.
Do you have the yearbooks for
yes.
all of those years? Okay, good.
Yes.
Well, then I won't try to unearth them then. I don't remember it being, it was the year where there started to be boy-girl parties that, I mean, we had boy-girl parties before that, but this was more, there were more of them because there were more dances. And that was a big deal. They organized dances, the football games, oh my gosh, in the fall and homecoming, and oh, those were so exciting. The classes were there too, but I was much more interested in all the social scene.
Sure.
And let's see, I guess about sophomore year, it was before we were allowed to drive or able to drive, so we weren't 16 yet. We would sometimes get together and take the bus to downtown, to the Loop.
Oh wow!
Or take the bus to the beach, Lake Michigan, and going to the Loop generally meant shopping and then having lunch at the Prudential Building. There was a coffee shop in the bottom of the Prudential Building, which was on halfway underground, halfway above ground. Anyway, there were windows along the side where you could see people walking on the sidewalk, but it was sort of from their knees down, as I recall.
Yes.
Let's see. There were the elections. Oh, those were amazing. What a great education we had. Wow. So every year there would be elections for student council, president and vice president.
Right.
And probably the other positions too, secretary maybe, and something else maybe. And the kids who had parents who had access to printing were always involved, because the event, the week was organized in such a way that candidates identified themselves. They then would have a campaign manager, and then they would be in charge of running their campaign. And those campaigns were just ridiculously fun and informative. So the kids would access to then just dads had, because this was still the late 50s, early 60s, who were involved with printing, would create tags like vote for blank. And at one point, of course, it was vote for Hillary and vote for Betsy, and hand them out. And then the kids would identify their candidates of choice and would get pins, and really not so much pins as much as paper on string that you put on your buttonhole, or you could put in your buttonhole, or hang on your button on your purse or whatever. And they'd have banners, and they would have a day where we would come into this field house at Maine East, and it's a big place. And each candidate would give a speech and have a skit or music. There was lots of music and bands that would support the different candidates. And they would have confetti, and it was really very modeled after our conventions. So it was that was a thrilling week as well.
So now, what did you see much of Hillary personally as a did you ever see her on student council, or what was your interactions? What did you mostly interact with her? What was your interactions with her during high school?
Our interactions were mostly through By then, Scouts was over for her. I don't think she continued on in high school. And our interactions were mostly around sports. If we were somehow, I mean, I did not play sports, and I don't know if she did either, but for instance, if we went to sporting events, like a football game or the swim team was really, really good, or basketball. Oh my gosh, basketball games were so great. You know, it's the kind of thing where we'd look for each other or sit together if we had sometimes arranged, sometimes not. Mostly not. I mean, we were not best friends. Hillary and Betsy were best friends.
Right.
But we liked each other, and we hung out, you know, in a larger group.
Mm-hmm.
And our paths would intersect in general classes like PE and things like that, you know. By the end of high school, clearly she was on a different track than I was. And I started having fewer and fewer classes with her.
Sure.
Because she was more A-lane.
Right.
But we did have student council together. We did have class council. And I think she may have gone to, when we were we would have been seniors. This was by the time we were over in Maine South. She called the, I think it was the Tri-High-Y spring break in Fort Lauderdale trip.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Tri-High-Y or was it her church? Anyway, you know, there were not that many organized events that I can remember.
Right.
That she and I cooked up or went to intentionally together.
Mm-hmm.
It was larger groups.
Right. So tell me, tell me what was student council like? Why were you on there?
Student council was, I was on there because it was just done by popular vote.
Okay.
All of us. And it was actually a well-organized, agenda-driven activity, and where ideas were floated and acted upon. By the time we were seniors, there were various obligations. Well, not various. There was an obligation, and that was to earn money to leave a gift to the school. I have no recollection of what gift it was, but I remember that big paper drive because it was really fun, and I had.
That was a student council paper drive, right?
I think it was a senior class paper drive.
The senior class.
That the officers of the senior class, which were Betsy and me and two other people, organized.
Was Hillary an officer?
She would have been. She was president of the senior class. I mean, of the student council,
mm-hmm.
which included all of the classes.
Okay.
So she was like president of the United States, you know. Only better.
What was she like, as far as you recall, as in student council?
Serious. Serious in terms of action-oriented. Her sense of humor was always present. I mean, she was, you know, funny. She was just funny and witty and had her laugh, and, you know, she was a lot of fun. But she also had good ideas and had methods that allowed those ideas to surface. When I say methods, I mean she was just confident And so the work got done, and we were better for it,
Right. Now, thinking back, like, I don't know if you remember, like, maybe when you were in Girl Scouts, did you ever go over to her house? Did you know her? Did you run into her mom at all?
I did run into her mom, and I went to her house. I did know her mom, and I probably felt like I knew her better later in life, when our paths would cross at events and functions,
right?
That sort of thing. I appreciated her more.
Right.
And she was just, a mom.
Right.
I was a little afraid of her dad because he was strict.
Do you remember why you were over? Like, what would be the occasion of why you'd go over to her house?
Just to play.
Okay.
Then that would have been in elementary school.
Right. And what kinds of things did you guys do at each other's houses?
We were a pretty outdoor focused. When I think of our childhood, I think of being outside most of the time. And so must have been summer, when we would do those things. I'm trying to think if we ever walked home together. It's not inconceivable that I would have walked that way, and then although her house was not in direct line to the school from mine, it would have been an intentional activity, like walking home after school,
right,
and playing for a while.
Right. She's seen that's the common theme that I hear from a lot of people, that she's more athletic than people probably would guess.
Yeah.
She's very active and had a lot of athletic abilities. I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
So what was you weren't in the Methodist church with her at all, were you?
No, I was right next door in the Christian Science church.
Okay.
And I was always so envious of all the kids because, 3 of us would walk into my church and 20 would walk into her church, and
sure.
Oh man, that's the good one.
Sure. So what did you remember taking any particular classes with her at all?
Well, it was when it was in senior year.
Mm-hmm.
I want to say it was current events. I think that was what it was entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a pretty vague memory, but we had to do arguments, like debates, and I remember I was miserable at it. Had no skill at all in that area, and was really dazzled by so many of the kids that were really gifted debaters. I mean, it wasn't a debate class. It was just an assignment.
Right.
And I remember comparing myself to her and to others, and realizing at that point, they're a lot smarter than I am in this area.
Right.
So
right.
she was impressive.
Right.
She was just impressive.
She was somebody who you thought was very good in that task, is advocating or arguing for a side.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. That's what I've heard a lot of too.
Right.
And then, then you did not stick around after high school, did you?
Right.
That's right.
No, that's right. So, your questions that pertain to her activism as we were really beginning to realize civil rights, the importance of civil rights, I was not around for.
Right.
Sure watched a lot of TV about that, though.
Sure. So tell me, what are the things that you think would be people should know, like, about her, like, that you can? Let me just first of all say this is a kind of an absurd interview because you're supposed to remember something that's well over 50 years ago, which you just happen to go to school with somebody who ran for president, and you didn't know that at the time. So I appreciate. This is not a quiz or anything. So I would not be very good because I don't remember a lot of details about my friends when I was little. But anyway, so like, what other kinds of things or memories or things that you recall of when you were a kid with Hillary that we maybe that just could be random?
Even when you're a kid, though, you get lasting impressions. I don't remember as many specific stories as I remember my impression of her as a girlfriend. And it was that, I think first and foremost, her intelligence. And when I became old enough to even notice such a thing, in second grade I didn't notice that sort of thing. But by the end of elementary school I did. And so her intelligence and her confidence really were noteworthy. I don't remember thinking, oh, I wish I were more like that. I just remember thinking, wow, that's important. And also the athleticism that we talked about, but she was a good kid, a nice kid, funny. And it just pained me deeply in the elections to have so many people not see the quality of human being that she is.
Right.
The sincerity and the giving. Oh my gosh, she has been serving since she was a kid. Doing the right thing and helping others and doing it in a way that included people, didn't distance herself from people. She was and still is a good friend.
That's what I've heard, and I think that speaks volume, and I concur in that. I tell this to other people about the project that I've been this project over the last few years. That's the theme. You wouldn't have these people who have no agenda, no interest. There's nothing in it for you or to say these things. And I think it's not. You're just not like. There's many, many, many people who've said this to me, and you're not just like one or two. There's a lot of people. So part of the story is I'd like to tell. That's the larger. I want to tell the story, and it's not been an easy story to tell because, we're in the today's world. But one tiny little bit to tell the real story about her rather than the caricature that people have created that's not true, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to make sure that this story is told. So I really appreciate, and one of the things that's been very, very difficult is people didn't take pictures like they did back then. So your photos are so awesome, and I just wanted to check with you about a couple a couple things if you do have some time. First off, I don't think, just in case, I just thought I'd ask is if you did have any high school pictures that you think would be good. That would be super helpful, but I don't
think I have any that were the only one I had was from the beach, and I've lost it along the way. I sent it to somebody, and I can't remember who, and it was a fun shot,
Sure.
Just a goofy shot of the girls. But I don't think I have any other high school pictures other than what's in the yearbook.
Right. Okay. And then the other thing is what we're doing is our goal is to do a nice exhibit as well as do is have these interviews as part of the permanent record, and also photos for the short student-led documentary that we're doing. It's going to be 10 to 13 minutes to anchor this. But the key thing is we want to blow up the pictures in our permanent exhibit so that people can kind of see. So I was wondering if the pictures were great, but I was wondering if you could rescan, if you would possibly be able to rescan them at a deeper setting. There's a setting of, I think typically the quality is like 200 or 300 dots per inch, and I think there's a setting on a scanner at 600. Is that
okay?
Do you know? I don't know if you scan these or whatever.
No, you know what I did was I just took pictures of the picture.
Oh, okay. They're really good for pictures of picture, by the way.
Oh, well, good. Let me try that. Let me try to do some scanning with basically more pixels. Is that the idea?
Yeah. So there's a setting like called Deep Scan is like around 600 DPI would be fantastic. If you have anything around that ballpark, if you want to try one of those and send it, just like the kidnapping, that would be great. But whatever you could do, because this is, we're going to blow them up. So we would like they start getting pixelated. They're fine right on for what there are right now. But if we blew them up, they would be harder. It would lose.
Right.
By the way, I will say so we had a History Center meeting with the board last week, and everyone was over the moon and very excited to see these pictures. And we do a lot of work at the History Center, and it's times like this when we have someone like share like photos from the past. That makes our day. So you made our day. So
you are so sweet to tell me that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I will say, I want to give you one more compliment. And your pictures and your stories are we shared. Like we had a Girl Scout troop. They were like in 4th grade. They came in, and Brian shared my colleague Brian shared the letter from Hillary thanking the Heritage Committee for doing the plaque that there's right. And they were oohing and ahhing and taking pictures of the letter, and they were really he was taken aback how not non-cynical, but just really this through fresh eyes. And so we're going to do this for generations. So we're going to tell the story about trailblazing women of Park Ridge and about a girl who was just like them. And your pictures will show that they were, you guys were regular kids, and you went on to do different great things in your own ways. And she's one of those ones that to look up to. And so I want to tell you we appreciate it, and it's going to have a profound impact for the community for many years. So I want to thank you.
Wow. Well, that feels pretty wonderful to hear.
Yeah, and I hope
it feels like. Go ahead.
I hope you can come back someday and see what you've done.
Oh, I would love to. Actually, my sister and I have planned on making a trip back just to do ancestry stuff. We want to take pictures of things and go to Oswego, Illinois, which was
okay.
My mom spent some time. So,
okay.
Yeah, so I do plan on coming back. So
well, I definitely will. I will let you know. I'm sure Betsy will let you know first when we have everything ready here. So, and I will make sure that we get in, and whenever you're in town, we'll have a personal tour for you.
Oh God, thanks. Well, let me know too. Keep me on your list of people to notify when you have events.
Okay.
There that because I could organize my trip around something that would would coincide.
Okay.
With that. So anyway, I'm just so thrilled that you're doing this work because it feels important to be able to tell the real story.
Yeah, I agree. And
what was left?
Yeah, it is. I want people to know the big. If I can get anything, is to say that there were kids just like you who said, I'm going for it regardless of what you say, and I'm have my own challenges. She had a tough dad and a mom who went through a lot of stuff, and she was able to go for it and set an example for everybody, and that you can do that in lots of different ways. It's pretty astounding when I look back at these pictures and say, oh, this person did this, that person did that. And they're just little kids who we kidnapped. Yeah. Right. So, Alrighty, Don. Well, thank you very much. You're doing some great work, so I look forward to keeping in touch. Okay, will do. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful weekend, Sukie. Oh, you too. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.